welcome to Honor Radio. I am your host, Mark Soto, and our producer is my friend and video tech genius, Rick Sutter. Rick, give me a Muttley laugh. Awesome, buddy. Listen, guys, we do Honor Radio to educate, inspire, and touch you, the listening audience, and we have been so blessed that we have had some amazing people on this show over the years. A few people to bring up is John Lynch Sr., who used to be the president of the San Diego Tribune newspaper, and now his son, John Lynch Jr., Hall of Fame football player, is the general manager for the 49ers. We've had American Sniper, the guy that wrote the book American Sniper, Scott McEwen, on this show, and that book became an Academy Award-winning movie. And then we've had Coach Joe Kennedy on, who took his fight of being able to pray on the football field all the way to the Supreme Court and won. We use this platform to educate people about what we do with the Honor Group, the friends that we've met over the years, the people that have inspired us and have encouraged us to keep moving forward. And guys, I got to tell you right now, we are so honored to have two Marines on here that we have met. We've known actually since 2010. These are two Marines that used to be with the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, and we're going to have them tell their stories. And these are the two gentlemen that go into our locker rooms and perform what we call our moto talks. And we thought it would be really good for you to hear their stories, because these are the guys that go in those locker rooms and talk about sacrifice, brotherhood, commitment. It's extremely powerful. And I want to introduce to you Sergeant Marcus Chischilly and Gunnery Sgt. Freddy Torres. Guys, welcome to Honor Radio. It's great to have you on the show. Really is, guys. Hey, man, I want to tell you right now, I'm a little nervous about having you guys on this show, man, because I just love you guys so much. We've become so close over the years, countless upon countless honor bowls that we've all done together. Freddie and I were just talking. How many moto talks do you think you've done, Freddie?
Over 50 easily. I mean,
over 50, right? What about you, Marcus? I mean, you go all the way back to 2013 with us.
Yeah, honestly, I have never kept count of how many times we've participated. And so it's always just a really good event to be a part of.
Guys, I want the listener to know you men, your stories. Marcus, let's start with you, my friend. And, you go into the locker rooms and you talk about your injury, what you remember from that day. Give our listening audience a little bit about what you remember from that infamous day of when you got wounded on the battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, October 9th, 2010 was my original date of injury. I was in a place called Gyzgt, Afghanistan. Was serving with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, H&S Company at the time. I was part of the PAT team out to assist the Afghan national police forces out in that area to kind of increase their capabilities. And while we were out on patrol, I stepped on an IED, and that resulted me in losing my left leg above the knee.
Now, you say something in the locker rooms about how when the bomb went off under you, you could actually feel yourself in the air, right? About spinning up in the air and going up, down, up, down. I remember one time you were describing that. Do you recall that, buddy?
Yeah, I think that was kind of like one of those, fog of war type moments. I've actually replayed a portion of that video, and it's super funny because I say blue sky, I think like back to back,
Yeah, definitely. You blue sky, ground, blue sky, and then just down, and it doesn't take, like I said, about 1, 2, and you're just like, oh crap, I just stepped on an IED. I think it just, when people ask me that, tons of pressure. I couldn't, I knew I was hurt, but just tons of pressure, kind of just like unimaginable. But yeah, you could definitely feel a lot of pain everywhere. But yeah, I just remember feeling a lot of pressure on my left leg.
a couple different times. When you actually see that video, it's really, really funny. I think in all purpose, it's very intense situation to kind of get through. It's pretty crazy to try to articulate. Only I think a couple months after injury is pretty funny on my part, because now that we have a little bit more extensive knowledge about that day and what happened, we could talk a little bit pretty clearly on that. But yeah,
Right.
to sit there and watch the video on that first interview, I think we did before I had
Yeah.
even gotten into a prosthetic. We
Yeah.
were talking about increasing your capabilities on sharing 3-5 story, and getting these guys a little bit more visibility into what was happening in Afghanistan at the time.
Freddie, Marcus, you're such an inspiration. I mean, Bud, it's been such an honor to get to know you over the years. I met you actually while you were at Balboa Hospital. You were still in the heat of recovering from your wounds. Like you said, you hadn't even gotten your prosthetic yet, right? And it was just so powerful to meet you, some of your fellow warriors. Then you went on to play basketball. Tell us a little bit more about that, about what happened after injury and how you got into being an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting into athletics and adaptive sports was really key to my success in recovery. I didn't really see myself in a wheelchair, let alone playing sports in a wheelchair. So to be introduced into stuff like that, it went very, very quick. It was a lot of fun. It was very competitive. We had a lot of guys that were at the hospital at the time participating in the same sports. We formed a wheelchair basketball team that was comprised of primarily all Marines. We had a few corpsmen on our team at the time. And we had a few guys in the civilian sector who really taught us about the game. We went from Division 3 to Division 2 to Division 1 within a few short years, and then within playing our third year inside of the National Wheelchair Basketball Association, we were reigning champions across the United States. So Division 1 wheelchair basketball is really, really cool to play. I still play it to this day. We still get together and scrimmage with the guys, even though we're not technically on a team. But yeah, those are some of the really great times for sure.
I remember going down and watching you guys play. I think Rick and I went down there together.
Yes.
And I could not believe the speed and the pounding of the wheelchairs and all that. It was just so fun to watch, and I was just so encouraged about seeing you guys, just going to a whole other level of athleticism even after injury. It was pretty powerful to see. We're going to come back to you, Marcus. I want the public to meet Freddy now. Gunnery Sergeant Freddy Torres, man, Freddy. What an inspiration. You, like Marcus, have just been an amazing warrior to follow, to track back from your days of returning back from saying in Afghanistan. And I want the nation to hear your story about injury, because Freddie also goes in the locker room. And I got to tell you guys, when you see these guys talking to these athletes, and there's 70 to 80 of them kneeled up, looking at them, there isn't a pin drop that you could, it is so silent, and everybody is fixed on them because their stories are so powerful. Welcome to the show, Freddie.
Morning, Coach. Thanks for having me.
So tell us your story, Gunny, about your injury, just like Marcus did. Tell us about what you recall from that day, and then we'll discuss some other things here.
Yeah, definitely. It was December 30th, 2010. I had just gone to a new area of operation, completely brand new platoon, new squad that I had gotten to. And my first patrol out on December 30th, we're out for about 4 or 5 hours, gaining atmospherics and talking to the local nationals, talking to the village elders, pretty much gaining intelligence, since we were going to be there for the next 3-4 months projected. And we were making our way back to the patrol base, and on the way in, the back of my squad, one of my Marines stepped on an IED, improvised explosive device, a roadside bomb, and luckily that bomb didn't go off all the way. So we brought him back into the patrol base, got him out of there. He's fine. It was just a shattered ankle, which he recovered from. But then we had to go back out there and blow in place the rest of the explosives that were out there. So in transition to being out there and setting down the explosives to blow more explosives, the Taliban took advantage of that. We had a 4-man team out there, and that's when they opened up an ambush from about 200 meters away, a couple what we call murder holes. Murder holes, they were just holes where they were just big enough on their walls to put their barrels down and suppress us with and ambush us with. So they suppressed us from those murder holes, and I happened to be on the back of that fire team placing down the explosives, and that's when I got hit twice in the leg from that ambush position.
So you get hit in the legs through these guys that were firing through the murder holes. What do you recall after that, Freddie?
So it was so there was only 4 of us out there at the time. It was just one of my team leaders, Corporal Zach Wallace, who ended up saving my life, my combat engineer, Zach Stengel, and then one of my other assaultmen was out there. So it was a 4-man team, and I was on the rear of it. And as I'm about to step over this explosive that we had just laid down to blow in place, to my right is where we got ambushed. And I remember just seeing the dust. I was right next to a wall, and there was dust pellets that went off. There were so many rounds hitting that wall next to me, and I didn't really know that I was hit. And my immediate reaction was to turn, contact right, basically. It's one of our immediate action drills. I contact right, I put off my rifle, and I started suppressing where I saw dust coming from those murder holes. And I immediately started running in that direction, towards the direction of fire. And it wasn't until about 50 meters until I stopped running. There was about a waist-high wall with a little divot. And that's where, in my head, I was thinking I was going to take a knee and get behind it and suppress that murder hole. And that's when I got to that divot, and I fell on my back. When I stood up, or I tried to stand up, I saw my desert frog bottoms, my camis, were completely red, drenched in red, and they were wet at the time.
So they were drenched in blood, right? And you had no idea about the extent of your injury, but your fellow warriors come over to you and they try stopping the bleeding. What happens after that?
That's where that 50 meters that I had ran, Zach Wallace, I can see him from the periphery of my eye. He's running and sprinting towards me, and just like almost like an action movie, a war movie, he slides in like on his knees, and he immediately starts treating me, starts working me. He takes a seatbelt cutter off, which is like scissors essentially, and like a razor, and he cuts my camis off, he cuts my pants off, and immediately blood was gushing out. There was squirts of blood coming out right from that area that he opened it up. So he does this to both legs, immediately sees one is gushing blood, notices that the artery had been damaged or hit at this point, grabs a tourniquet and slides it in, and immediately puts his fingers, it was a pretty deep hole, puts his fingers in the hole, and with his palm down, applies his entire weight and pressure on it to stop the bleeding. You know, gets gauze out, gets other medical materials out, and stuffs it in there and wraps it until he calls for backup so he can get me out of there.
Oh, buddy, what a story. I mean, you and Marcus's stories are just so amazing. Both of you, after injury, get medevaced out of Afghanistan. They were in an area of Afghanistan called Sangin, and I could tell you something right now, guys. It is probably one of the worst parts that you could be in during that time in the Helmand province of Afghanistan. And both these gentlemen get injured, seriously injured. Marcus losing his leg, Freddie getting shot in the femoral artery. And when he talks about the gushing of blood, he had literally got nicked in his artery. So they get medevaced out. They get sent to, I guess, Landstuhl, Germany, and then onward to the States. And this is where they recover. We heard a little bit about Marcus's recovery and what he did afterwards. Freddie, recently, now you're still in the Marine Corps. You're still in. And recently, what have you been doing? Tell the listening audience about some of the great stuff you've been doing listening. And then I want to come back to one thing when it comes to Marcus. What you been doing, Freddie?
So I think over the last a little bit over a year, something that's changed with me that has been different from all the honorables I've been doing is I'll just say it like I found God. I found Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. And the way I give that story now, it used to be called a warrior case study. And it's not a warrior case study. It's a 100% testimony.
My leg was getting ripped off and I was getting medically retired, and then I was never going to walk and run the same way I used to. But I took the challenge and I took the adversity, I took the roadblock, and I went against it because I had the option. In my eyes, I failed at something. I failed, and I had the option to stay down, not get myself back up, not pick myself back up, not learn from it, and not do great things for it. That was not an option for me. So I chose not to be a failure. Failing and failing, that's a failure, two different things. And I share that story with you, not for myself, not to put myself up here. I share that story with you because I used to think that I was lucky. I used to think it was coincidence. I used to think that I trained my squad so damn well that they got me out of there. But let me tell you right now, that wasn't the case. I was far from being right. That was God, my Savior, my Lord, that saved me that day for a purpose to, whatever it was, to be up here and stand. And I hope that it reaches one of you today.
On why God kept me around that day. And it took me a long time to share that story. There's many friends that I have close. My family doesn't even know that story to the extent the way I share it with you guys in the honorable. But it took me about till 2018 to slowly start coming out. And then it was last year, towards the end of the summer, where I found God and it started realizing that it was a testimony. And I get to share that now. And people that are going through challenges and adversities and going through tough times in life, and like, hey, like you can make it. Like you just need to go to one person. One person's going to get you out of it. And that's the biggest thing with me now. And last night we finished youth training to do some youth leadership, youth ministry. For the last couple of months, we've been doing that. Very involved with my church, my community. Yeah, that's the biggest thing in my life now.
3-5, get up!
You're such an inspiration, buddy. And we're going to come back to a little bit more about that, Freddie. But Marcus, one thing I want America's audience to hear is that you're from a Navajo Indian descent, right? Marcus, there's only a few. Educate me a little bit, Marcus, when it comes to Navajo warriors. Over the years, there's been some amazing Navajo warriors. I mean, we could go all the way back to the code talkers of was it World War II? Correct me if I'm wrong, Marcus.
Yeah, World War II.
World War II. Tell us a little bit about your ancestry and what caused you to join the Marine Corps.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona. I am a part of the Navajo tribe as well as the Hopi and the Choctaw tribe. And really becoming a Marine, I've had a lot of, a lot of people that I was around, a lot of family members that were Marines. They presented themselves in a particular way. They were always respected. And so it's something that I really aspired to as a young individual. My wife's grandfather was a part of the Code Talker Association during that time in World War II and fought in the Pacific Theater of War and combat. And there's direct lineage that we have and we share within our family. So serving as a Marine not only speaks to our history of being in the military, specifically the Marine Corps, but how we carry that warrior mindset into today's use and in today's military force.
What an inspiration, Marcus. I mean, really, buddy. Guys, let me also give you a little inspiration here. The Navajo code talkers were really the ones that developed a code using their language. Correct me, Marcus. I don't want to say anything wrong. Using the Navajo language to create a code that could not be intercepted by the Germans, by others that were attacking us during World War II and literally saved a lot of American lives. Am I right, Marcus? I don't want to do any injustice to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very interesting that within the past decade, that the declassification of that code, a lot of code talkers now have the ability to share that information, but it's still a code. So even if they were to share the code with the guys that actually speak Navajo fluently, we still wouldn't figure out what it actually meant. The verbiage and the context in which they utilized it is still within a code. So I think that's pretty cool. That's still kind of a sworn secrecy. If you know, you know. If you don't, you got a lot of learning to do. So
3-5, get up!
Get some. I love it. I love it. All right, back to the honor ball. So I ask you guys, I'm like, hey, man, we're looking for some people that will go into the locker rooms, inspire the athletes before they go on the field, motivate the coaches, get them pumped up. So, like, we're the last people to talk to them before they take the field, right? So I ask you guys years ago, will you guys be a part of this? Will you come and be a part of this honor ball that every game, every team gets this talk? It's not like it's the whole teams come together and we do two at one. We actually do this 10 minutes before they go out on the football field, right? Marcus, what fires you up about those talks? What inspires you about it? Because you and Freddy are just amazing at it. What do you get out of that, my friend?
From a sports perspective, I mean, you do anything and everything when it comes to practice to, succeeding in the classroom in order to even participate in sports. You go through a lot of, pain. You go through a lot of effort in trying to make yourself the best, whether that's as an individual or you're comprised of a team. And when it comes to football specifically, they encompass all of that. They encompass a lot of courage, a lot of teamwork, a lot of adaptability. They got to go through a lot of different environments, whether they're playing in the summer or the winter time. And the only really difference is the fact is that they're not getting shot at. So I mean, they do a lot of the really cool training aspects, the mentality that's behind it. A lot of the stringent work that goes into it. So when we get there, it's go time. They're there for a reason. They're there to try to put forth their best efforts into winning the day's game, just like we would do, serving in the military. And so when we get out there and we talk to them, we kind of want to be a part of that, share some of that excitement, share some of that camaraderie, get them, as well prepped mentally, get them super excited to play a game that they essentially came to love, just like, we loved, being in the Marine Corps, being a part of the military. And there's not anything about what we do that we would go back and change if the outcome were to be different. And that's the reason why when we go in there, it's just it's a flip of the switch. I think we've talked about this plenty of times. You see the switch go on and it's like we're completely different personalities. And I think Freddie can speak to this. I've seen his switch go on multiple times and it's go time. Everybody's either, an arm distance away for their own protection, but at the same time, you're like, please, share all this knowledge and experience with me.
Yeah, I gotta tell.
Get up! 3-5, get up!
Two get somes. Wow, that's awesome. No, I mean it's really inspirational, buddy, and you do such a great job. Freddie, what gets you going when it comes to those moto talks, buddy?
I think back of where I'm at today and how I got here, and I think back to a bunch of my leaders, especially those first 4 years where I was, very moldable, and they were able to shape me. So Sergeant Major Burton, now retired, Freddie Herrera, who's one of my platoon sergeants, Joe Patterson, Sergeant Major Rangers, I have so many people, Jake Fernandez, that have made me that inspired me to be what I'm at today. So I mention that because I try to be that same inspiration that those leaders were to me and push that in the locker room as much as possible. So you heard it this last time we were in NorCal, where I got to talk to that second football team twice. I talked to them down in San Diego, talked to them up north in Northern California, and I talked about being physically, mentally, and characteristically spiritually fit, being competent, remaining an eternal student, taking care of those around you, and being a good person. And I take those 4 foundations, that philosophy, from the ones that raised me and made me who I am today. And my biggest strive and inspiration is to push that to them. And it's amazing what it does I've mentioned to you, Coach, I've had recruits come up to me and tell me, I played in the Honor Bowl. I listened to your story
That's
in
just
that locker room, and it goes a long way. And they you know, they thank you, and they tell you, I was facing this challenge and I was going through this, and I thought back to your story and it got me through it. So big reason why I do it, what it gets me going.
Get some! Get some! Get some! Get some!
3-5! Get up! 3-5! Get up!
Got to keep things even here.
one of the things that you don't know about Freddy, and that is that he recently was a drill instructor at MCRD in San Diego, and I lost count. I think you did 3 or 4 groups. Am I right, over the years?
I did about 6 cycles.
He did 6 cycles with 6 different teams of recruits that are looking to become Marines. And he's the drill instructor that's getting them ready to wear that Eagle Globe and Anchor. And I got to tell you, buddy, to have people or kids that have played athletes, student athletes that have played in the Honor Bowl come up to you while you're a drill instructor at MCRD, that's got to be absolutely an inspiration, buddy.
It's an amazing feeling. I talk about my time as being a drill instructor, probably some of the best years of my life in growth and maturity and development. But to have one of these kids come up to me, and it's such a huge sense of accomplishment, and it means a lot to me for them to come up to me and say that. And for them, but to share a story saying they were facing this, or they were going through this at home and they didn't know how to get through it, and they thought back to that story, not just my story, but I've also gotten to share Sinistero stories, Abate's story, James Stack's story, and for them to get through that and use our stories, use our experience to get through life, that it's not easy. So huge sense of accomplishment.
Absolutely, buddy. You know what I love about it is when after you guys get done speaking and we do the get some to get everybody's getting ready to go on the football field. I mean, the energy is so intense. I'm feeling it right now.
3-5, our company commander had one specific saying, and that was get some. No matter where we were at, no matter the environment, no matter how high, no matter how low, no matter how hot or cold, blood, sweat, tears, we were going to get some. We were going to get some. So what I want you guys to do is stand up. I want you on your feet right now. Now when I say 3-5, you guys are going to yell at the top of your lungs, get some. We good? Sir. All right, here we go. 3-5! Get some! 3-5! Get some! 3-5! Get some! That's what I'm talking about.
But it's so intense, but I love the way the athletes and the coaches come up to you guys and shake your hand and thank you so much for your service. It truly is an educational platform. Am I right, Marcus?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good to see, how much effort coaches, assistant coaches, athlete programmers that go out and put a lot of effort into just, giving these guys the ability to show how good they are. It speaks volumes from, teachings that we get that are foundational in the Marine Corps that we still carry today. I like Freddy Torres' emphasis on the philosophy, the warrior ethos that we carry around. That's something that we always talk about. I'm a father of 6 children. I pass those same philosophies and ethos. It's kind of, it comes off as an expectation more than a conversation about, what's expected of them. But, there's so many great things that we share in cumbersome to, just being great in general.
No doubt about it. No doubt. How does that make you feel, Freddie, when they come up to you afterwards in the locker room? What kind of feeling do you get?
I feel like it just gets better and better every year. I'm at this, this all-time, I don't know what to call it, this all-time high. And these kids just come up to you and they thank you and they're so respectful. This year, I'm not saying the other years they weren't respectful, but this year there was something about these athletes and these students, and people say, oh, our generation's lost, it's gone. No, it's not. We are so grateful and thankful for these coaches and these assistant coaches and everybody that has a finger on these kids, a fingerprint on these kids to make them better Americans, to appreciate what we have. These freedoms are not free. We hear that all the time. We just had Veterans Day yesterday, the Marine Corps birthday a couple of days ago. These freedoms are paid by somebody. we could easily be another country, but we're not because of service members, and that goes to the coaches and the athletes staff that put that thought process in their head. This isn't, you can't take this for granted, and I'm very appreciative of those staff, and it feels really good. It does.
Oh, buddy, God, I just got goosebumps. I got to tell you, when people tell me that the youth of America are lost, I tell them, come to an honor bowl. Come to an honor bowl. If you want to see that there's hope, if there's inspiration, there's greatness out there still in America, come in a locker room at the honor bowl and see what goes down there. I mean, we'll have teams. There's some of these teams are 120 people, some are 70, some are 40, right? Depending on the size of the squad. But you get inspired. You get inspired and you go, man, there's the hope of America. We still have greatness in America, and that's our youth that is still coming up. And for them to have a chance to meet you guys, right, and the way you guys inspire them, and the way they look at you, and the way they respect you, and want to play their best game ever for you, is pretty something awesome. Marcus, do you remember when we were told that there was a young man that was kneeling before the games during the Honor Bowl, and someone in the media sidetracking me, and I can't remember who it was, but he said, "Hey, coach, there's someone that's been kneeling, and you said nobody kneels at the Honor Bowl." And we had you talk directly to this gentleman in the locker room. Do you remember that, Marcus?
Yeah, it was, to really try to inspire what this country really represents, and, being able to stand out of respect for those who have come, regardless of where we are agenda-based. And I know those things are super important when it comes to, our social and economic development, but really when we're all coming together, you find inspiration by actions of the things that people have done and what they've gone through, the sacrifices that they've paid, and what they continue to pay forward in the representation of that. And it's out of genuine respect that I was able to look this young gentleman in the eye and kind of instill a little bit more to help him understand that obviously his voice will be heard through his experience in sports, but his ability to inspire others goes 10 times further than that. And so to kind of share that a little bit with him, I'm sure resonated, a lot better than just following, a simple gesture of taking a knee during sports, was to really kind of come full circle and explain like, hey, we do these things out of protest, but we also do these things out of the greatness, which, furthers our ability to inspire others.
You are so awesome.
3-5. Get up.
That was awesome. And so, like what Marcus said, he spoke to this kid, he looked him in the eyes, and he did not kneel. He did not kneel. He was impressed and inspired. And we heard afterwards, he never kneeled again. So it was, it's something special that you guys do, that you guys bring to the Honor Bowl. And we wanted America to hear your story and what you guys do. I think it's important that people know what happens in those locker rooms before those teams take the field, and what makes the Honor Bowl so special. It really is powerful. Marcus, what are you doing now, buddy? What's your career path now, my friend?
I work in telecommunications, so I do networking design as well as fiber distribution when it comes to incorporating networks. We have a big initiative that's pushing into Native American communities across the U.S., giving them broadband increases, just making sure they have an infrastructure that supports their network. And that gives them basic connections like cell phone service, internet capabilities, and then just the network infrastructure that supports their tribe.
Excellent, Marcus. God, that's perfect for you, my friend. That is
Yeah.
perfect.
Show
And
me
also, show me the money. Also, he is a wonderful father. Wonderful father of 6 amazing kids. I've had the opportunity to meet them. They're beautiful, highly respectful, just great kids, beautiful wife. Very proud of you, Marcus. Very proud of you.
I appreciate that very, very
Freddy,
much.
you've become we already talked about it, a man of faith. God definitely has taken you to a whole other level. I know that you probably have just a few years left before you're going to be retiring out of the Marine Corps. What are your plans, my friend?
I don't know yet. I don't know where this new journey's taking me. I kind of just, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go into another federal job, if I'm going to stay with the church, whatever God's calling for me to do. I really enjoy talking to the youth, and it goes from the Devil Pups program that I've done, the Honor Bowl, my recruits, and just being around the younger Marines and being able to push that inspiration to be better, to be a better person, and everything we just talked about. But I don't know. I haven't decided where I'm going with this next journey in my life.
That's amazing, buddy. How many more years do you think you have in the Marine Corps?
At least two. At least two.
At least two. Congratulations, Freddie. I mean, you guys are just amazing warriors. Rick, hey, I don't want you to be silent, buddy. You've been around these guys as much as I have. You got anything you want to say, Rick?
Marcus, you say you watched the video and you thought it was funny. We're talking the day remembered, right?
The
I
day
believe so.
remembered.
Yeah.
Blue skies, ground, blue skies, ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, that's what got me involved with Mark Soto. We traveled down to San Diego, thought we were just going to film a few things for the web, and it changed my life. It truly, truly changed my life. And
3-5, get up!
He gave himself a
I
get
wish
some.
I had that button.
He gave himself a get some. I love it.
I think what's really important to share too is the story of how me and Freddie actually met. I was already at the hospital. Original date of injury was in October. Freddie's was in December, and I was trying to keep track of everybody that was coming in, because I was one of the very first, if not maybe like the second or third, like traumatic injury from that deployment. So as I was capturing people in, I remember they were like, "Hey, we just got a new guy. His name is Freddy Torres. I believe you might have been a lance corporal or a corporal at the time. I can't really remember. We went to try to go see you right when you came in, but they're like, okay, he's got surgery later on. They're gonna prep him. So when you were done, you came out of surgery. We went back. I had known the hospital through everything. I could go through any door at that point just because we had been around everywhere. So I remember going up to the hospital room and meeting Freddie and just letting him know, like, hey, I was in Kilo Company. Last minute, they switched me to H&S. He got a little bit of chance to talk about his injuries and some of the things. But we were on such like parallel trajectories of not giving up our military career and going back to military service. Once I was done with Balboa, I went to VMFT 101 to become a flight equipment technician and continue, serving an additional 3 years before I eventually retired out. And
well, Marcus is on a roll right there. And Freddie, do you know exactly what he was talking about right then?
No, I honestly don't remember. Probably the first couple of weeks. In and out of surgery. I remember my family was there. A bunch of my friends from Southern California were in the area, and they came. There's a picture out there with on bedside, and they're all next to me, to my left and to my right. But yeah, one thing that I didn't really talk about. I share this with the athletes is I was told my career was over. It was done. I was told my leg was getting amputated. They talked about medical retirement for me. And they said I was never going to run the same way again. And in my head, and just like Marcus said, we weren't giving up on our career. I still felt like I had a lot more to give to the Marine Corps. And I took that as a challenge. And the doctors, they said, this is going to be at a minimum 9 months for you to start even running again. So I took that as a challenge, and I took on that, and I didn't let that happen. I'm still here today, active duty in the Marine Corps, because I accepted the challenge, and I didn't let a bunch of doctors. And again, it goes back to me thinking I was lucky, me thinking whatever, but it wasn't. It was God. God worked that through me. And everything I've gotten to do in my career up until this point, and everything I still have left, I was like, man, I've been so lucky to become this and do this and deploy this. No, it was all part of God's plan and His purpose for me to be where I'm at today. Like, I don't think of anything as a coincidence anymore. No such thing as a coincidence. Everything's God's plan.
3-5. Get up. 3-5.
So Marcus, we lost you briefly there, but Freddy, I think, was able to carry on from that fateful day. Man, there's so many things that I remember about you guys. There's so many things that have inspired me just by hearing your stories, by meeting your families, just becoming your friends, right? My son served with you guys, and he's been an amazing inspiration to me. But you guys, I got to tell you, man, speaking on behalf of Rick and our team here at the Honor Group and the Honor Bowl, you already heard a little bit from Rick. You guys, we love you. We love you. And as long as we're doing this Honor Bowl, we want you there. We want you there because more and more young men, women, athletes, coaches, communities need to know your stories. They need to know the story of the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, what you guys have done, what you guys did in Helmand Province, the way you won that area, the way you conquered it, established schools, did all that. And then after the deployment, the great men that you continue to be. So I just want you guys to know that we love you. Thank you for being on our podcast. Thank you for being a part of the Honor Bowl. There's nothing more. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. And we will be in touch because we're talking Honor Bowl, Texas now. We're talking, it looks like Honor Bowl, Texas is definitely going to happen. We're still playing around with Honor Bowl, Arizona, of course, San Diego. The mission is growing. The mission is growing. And as long as you guys will have us, we want you there. We want you there. Am I right, Rick?
Absolutely.
We want you there.
My goodness.
So anyways, guys, thank you. This is Honor Radio. We will be back next week with another guest. We got them lined up. We're going to be bringing them in, but have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a great Veterans Day, and thank you for listening to Honor Radio.